Why should you take breaks when on retention? Well, the primary reason is that you want to maintain optimal inner balance, and retaining until you can't do it for any longer might not be the most effective strategy for you. Now, for some people this can work, but I find this approach is limited and out of balance. Instead, I'm going to share with you some ideas around how taking breaks can be helpful for maintaining a more consistent and balanced inner state. First, let's quickly define what I mean by taking breaks. By this, I simply mean releasing naturally or ejaculating without the use of pornography. Let's get into some reasons why this could be useful for you. The first reason you might want to take a break from retention and release naturally is for stress relief. After a certain period of time on retention, it can feel like you are not getting anything from the practice. Instead, you are starting to feel the more negative effects, such as stress, tension, and a lack of perspective. Your energy might feel quite heavy, quite awkward, and quite static. In this situation, the benefit of releasing here is you immediately gain access to a clear and fresh mental space from which you can see things clearly again. You feel mentally and physically lighter with decreased tension in the face and body. You feel rejuvenated and you definitely feel less stressed. In my experience, this feels like a flushing out. It feels like a cleansing of the impurities in your energy. The downside to this is that you will likely feel weaker, more tired, and potentially more attracted to lower pleasures, such as lust. But again, on the other hand, your head is clear, your mood is better, and your perspective is back. You feel less tense, and you probably feel a bit more upbeat and joyful. So what is understood from this is that just like with everything, there are trade-offs. And what you learn by trying both retention and releasing is that neither of them are perfect. Suffering will arise irrespective of whether you choose to retain or not. So don't attach to either one, especially because life as a teacher will always find ways to make you suffer anyway. Another quite obvious reason you would want to take a break from retention is if you are experiencing extreme negative emotions. For example, if you are feeling really lost, depressed, or in your head, having a natural release can give you a wave of refreshing clarity. It's something that reminds you that all of your problems are only ever within your mind, and that if you take care of that mind by living a balanced life, your problems can sometimes just wash away because those problems were only ever ideas in the mind, often caused by your overthinking. Now, to clarify, I don't recommend releasing too often, but what releasing does do for you is it induces a very rapid shift in perspective. I'm sure that you're familiar with the term post-nut clarity, and while some people joke about this, it's actually very true. Your very heavy energy is lifted, and right away you see things clearly again. Sometimes all you need is this little shift in your state of mind for you to see and understand your situation with so much more clarity. Sometimes this is all that's needed in order to restore your inner balance. By releasing every now and then, you also prevent yourself from relapsing on PMO. And man, this could save your ass. I don't know about you, but I find relapsing is most likely to happen when you're on retention and you lose perspective. You have bundles of sexual energy, but your head is gone. From this position, you are unable to perceive the negative consequences of relapsing. It's a very dangerous position. And let's say you go through with this and you relapse. This action could knock you off balance for days and for weeks. Why do this to yourself? In my experience, when you release every now and then, it is easier to keep a cool head, to stay fresh and to stay relaxed, to stay far away from relapsing. Again, you want to maintain the optimal inner balance, and retaining until you can't do it for any longer can mean you end up relapsing on PMO. And for me, relapsing on PMO is so destructive and so painful that it has caused me to rethink how long my retention streaks are, because I know how easy it is to get a little lost and almost to feel like you've lost yourself when you're on this retention streak, when you're so deep in it. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you've realized you've relapsed on PMO. What? That's awful. It feels so bad. It's one of the worst feelings imaginable. In order to combat this, I find a more steady approach is to release every now and then. And this could be once a week. This could be once every 2 weeks, once a month. It completely depends on you and what you find to be most effective. The next reason that taking a break from retention can be worthwhile is to ensure that you are living life to the fullest and experiencing everything that the universe has gifted you with. One of these facets of experience that the universe has blessed you with is sexual intimacy and orgasm. And if you find yourself with the right person at the right time and you want to share that experience with them, then go for it and enjoy it to the fullest. What you must remember though is to do this consciously, to be mindful, to be aware, and to not act like a fool lusting over sex. Treasure the experience, but also remember and be conscious that if this is something that you're doing very regularly, your life will become devoid of retention very quickly, and you're not going to see any of these wonderful benefits that we usually talk about. So stay true to your commitment by living a life of moderation. The next reason that taking a break and releasing can be helpful for you is that when you end up returning to semen retention, you will once again see the huge difference. When back on retention, you'll notice the benefits quicker and you'll feel them because they'll be fresh in your experience. It's a great feeling to re-receive all of the awesome boosts that you know and love just a few days back into it. And again, because you released naturally, meaning you avoided PMO or pornography, you are launched right back into a high performance state. Again, the issue with going for as long as you possibly can until you eventually relapse with PMO is in that situation you're going to need to wait at least 1 or 2 weeks to start feeling like yourself again, to start feeling that high energy and that high confidence. Think about whether or not that is something that you need to consider changing in your life, because you don't want to go anywhere near PMO ever. It's not something that's ever going to do anything for you. If in doubt, release naturally. Another reason you may want to take a break from retention is that doing so prevents you from getting stuck in the same thought patterns. Your thoughts are always constructing your reality. And when you practice retention, I find it is very easy to remain energetically fixed, meaning you find yourself thinking and feeling the same sorts of things over and over again. Whereas when you release naturally, you experience a diversity of perspective. It switches up the way you feel and thus the way you think. Watch yourself look at life completely differently after releasing. And often this can be for the better. You can see things clearer and you can experience a more easygoing reality. Finally, remember that your body is precious and that you must attend to it just like with everything else. Make sure that you are mentally, physically, and sexually healthy. And this can be confirmed through a mixture of sex and relationships as well as discipline and retention. Speaking from my experience in the current life phase that I am in, using retention as a catalyst for high energy, high focus, high spiritual connection, and high abundance is something that I am in love with. I am using retention to live life to the fullest in this current moment. Do remember that you could be in a completely different life phase where retention is less effective for you or less appropriate for you for whatever reason. I recommend zooming out and observing your life just as if you were observing someone else's. Look at it without any judgment and ask yourself, how and where does retention fit into my life? And how can I utilize it in a way that is healthy, balanced, and that will nourish and upgrade the rest of my life? If you enjoyed this video and you would like more, then please do subscribe.